I think that the imposter syndrome is quite ill-named because it's not really about being an imposter. The true imposter syndrome is our own bias toward what we still have to learn and not remembering everything that we learned already.
Hi, and welcome to the Driven Female Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, award-winning business coach, value whisperer, and founder of the Dream Clients Blueprint, your step-by-step guide to communicating your true value with confidence and attracting more of your perfect fit clients. To help you start attracting more of your ideal clients immediately, you can access a free training I've put together for you by visiting melittacampbell.com/training. On this show, each week, I bring you practical, tried and tested techniques through my own experiences and those of other successful women in business. Our goal is to help you dream bigger and confidently achieve more in your business and in life without ever feeling fake or burning out. Today, we are continuing our Men's Month for November, and I'm speaking with Damien Gautier. He is the curator of TEDx Lausanne and coaches TEDx speakers across Switzerland and beyond, as well as working with leaders and entrepreneurs to help them get their message across confidently and make their ideas shine. Like myself, Damien used to be an introvert and still is, but has learned how to give extraordinary amounts of value by showing up with confidence and helping others to do the same. I'm excited for you to meet him and learn how you can achieve this for yourself as well. So hi, Damien, welcome, and it's great to have you with us on the show today.
Hi, Melitta. It's great to be there.
It feels a bit funny because I know when we worked together in TEDx Lausanne, you were the sort of the boss. And now I feel like, oh, I'm the boss a little bit.
Totally. But truth be told, I never actually thought of myself as being a boss. Even when I was leading the team as TEDx or leading my team at work, I mostly think of myself as this servant leadership or coaching posture. So happy to serve.
So you're going to talk today. We gave a clue a little bit there about confident speaking and how to get on a TEDx stage and how that compares to other kind of speaking that we can benefit from getting involved in as founders and leaders and business owners. But before we dive into all of that, I would love it if you could share with the audience a little bit about your journey to where you got to today, because I think you're well known, particularly in this region, for your ability as a speaker coach. And I think people will be quite surprised to know that actually you were very shy in the early days as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that story and that transformation?
Yeah, exactly. And as you know, I was probably one of the shyest kids on earth. I mean, I was literally the kid who hide behind their mom's leg at the supermarket that don't dare go and play with others. And it's still hard now for me to go at a cocktail party or a networking event without something to say. Just being there, some people are just natural small talkers, and I'm basically the opposite of that. And I remember that I used to make up excuses not to go. And what transformed me in that is, yes, I have a professional training in acting and I did years of improv, but that didn't help me to get to being a networking master. The only thing that changed that is that I'm capable of being very extroverted if I have something to tell, if I have something to share. So when I come somewhere and I'm expected to share things or talk about something, or if I have some drive to talk about something, then I'm not shy anymore because the message is stronger than my fear of being judged, because it's not about me. And that's what I did. And that's what I turned into my business. I try to make people realize that their message is worth sharing, hence the TEDx and the coaching. And I give them the tools and the techniques to be confident that they have the skill to make it being heard and make it clear. And when you have both confidence in your passion about what you want to tell and your tooling kit of very simple techniques, then you will be able to survive in any circumstances. And that happened to me. And it took a long time to realize that it was actually something that is valuable and something that is unique. It took me almost 20 years of being 10 years in acting and 10 years in consulting and understanding when I was trying to explain to people how to pitch in my consulting business. And I was explaining to the team how we should structure our pitch and pitch to the clients. And I realized that something that were basic for me was completely new for them, and that had tremendous value. And that was the drive for me to go out in the open and start making it as a business to help as many people as I can, to help the idea shine instead of just the communication skills.
Yeah, I love that story, and I resonate completely with that. Anyone that's read my book, A Shy Girl's Guide to Networking, will know that is very much my path as well. But the same thing that made the change for me was knowing my vision, the impact I wanted to have in the world was much bigger than my fears. And when I focused in on that and, well, how can I make this difference for people? Then suddenly it put my fears into perspective, and they didn't disappear, but they didn't hold me back anymore. And we had Sly on the show a couple of weeks ago. And again, he was very shy and stuttered. So he said he was below shy. But I think what we've gone through, that journey of learning what it takes to be significant in the world, enables us to then teach people. Because if you've always known how to do this, then you don't have those steps to help guide other people. So I think having gone through that process, it's really helpful for us as coaches and guides for other people to then help bring them along too. Because as you said, so many people have these incredible messages that need to be out there, but especially those who are more introverted. I think the introverted are empowered by finding that message and bringing that to the world. And I think for extroverts as well, they are very good at the small talk and getting out there and making connections. But when it comes to speaking and saying something of depth, something that matters, then that's the scary part for them. So they almost have shyness in opposite to us, but then the same skills can help them.
Yeah, there are two different traps where people can fall in. And that when you're extrovert, because you're so fluent in small talk and improvising and just interacting with people, you risk diluting your message. Because it happened yesterday. I was coaching for TEDx at Martini, and we had people where they were very, very comfortable on stage. The downside of that is that they were giving so many details that were not relevant for the message that it diluted the message itself. And at the end, you remember that the person was extroverted, they were very engaging, but you don't really remember the message. Where when you're an introvert, the trap is that you censor yourself. So you don't give half of the information you need to build the message because you think it's obvious, you judge yourself and stuff. And so the problem with you're an introvert is that you do not give enough because you filter out things. And when you're an extrovert, you don't know where to filter. So you don't filter anything. And in the end, as usual, the truth is in the middle, and you need to focus on what you want to say, and then to build the muscles, the intellectual muscles, the physical muscles, the technique to make it happen the way you want it to happen, instead of going in one or the other side tracks of you trying to make it clear.
I love that description. I think it's really makes it clear. And as you say, it's usually somewhere in the middle is always a sweet spot, isn't it? But it can be hard to find that for yourself, I think. But when you do, then it's transformational, because when you can get your message out there and have that level of transformation in the world that you want, it's magical. So one thing we were discussing before we went live is this problem that, if you are a founder, a business owner, a coach, a consultant, a leader, there gets a point where you can't avoid showing up and speaking. You have to speak, whether it's in meetings, whether it's in a TEDx event or somewhere. You have to get that message across. You have to be able to inspire people, to educate. But the problem is, most people are never educated in how to communicate. They've never been given the opportunity to build these skills. How do people start to develop those skills? Is there sort of like a foundational level that you would recommend people start with in order to start building that muscle, as you say?
Yeah, I think there are three foundational pillars to speaking, because they're all based on the premise that speaking is natural. You learn that as a survival skill as a kid. Speaking in front of people, that's not natural. So speaking on a stage or even in a meeting in front of people who listen to you and having this pressure of being interesting, that's not natural. It's something that our limbic brain is perceiving as a threat, because if we are badly abandoned by the tribe, then we literally will die if we were in nature. So our ancient brain is literally fearing of dying. And that's the reason, in my opinion, why more people fear speaking in public than they fear death itself. And to counter that, the first thing is you have to have a message and you have to have a structure. So you are the expert of what you want to say by definition. And what you need to learn are the structures that are very simple narrative structure, like the situation, and then there is a tension, which warrants some action that leads to a resolution, which is the very basic narrative structure. But if you know that and you use that consciously when you answer a question, and you consciously make the effort of saying, this is the situation, and then there is this tension, so we need to do this in order to get that, then all of a sudden what you want to say is clear and it's engaging because it's a narrative structure. So knowing this is the intellectual part. And then you have the other two, one being able to stand in front of people. So being accustomed to that feeling of discomfort, of just being there and connecting with people when you are standing in front of them and expecting to talk. Because it's a conversation, even if it's something like a conference or a TED Talk where you don't have an actual interaction with the audience, they will send you energy. And so it is kind of a conversation. And then, of course, you have the delivery techniques that you can learn on stage. So those three things are the one that you should build as foundation to speaking. And then on top of that, you will have a lot of different frameworks, different style, different things that you can add. But if you just master that, you're already perfectly ready to be on stage and deliver anything clearly.
Yeah, it's nice that you broke it down into three simple stages that you can master one at a time. I'm always telling my clients, just start simple and build from there. And if it's too complicated, if you're trying to remember your talk and do all these gestures and be all kind of actory on stage, if that's not natural to you, then it's not all going to come together and you're going to not feel at ease and build that confidence either. So I like that you've given everyone permission, start simple and then build from there. Which brings me to my next question, actually. We hear a lot about imposter syndrome. And you were talking there about this fear of public speaking. It's people fear it more than death. Are those two different things, or does this imposter syndrome make you feel fearful of speaking? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they are very much linked, but also I think that the imposter syndrome is quite ill-named, because it's not really about being an imposter. It's realizing that the image that we have about ourselves is not the same as the image that others have about us. And this discrepancy between I'm feeling that I am a novice and I just discovered the skill of public speaking. Even now, I'm trying to consciously look at evidence, objective evidence, to prove that what I'm delivering is actually valuable. Because to me, because I learned it, because I mastered it, it has become like common sense. So now I discount that value. And for me, this is the true imposter syndrome, is our own bias toward thinking that seeing what we still have to learn and not remembering everything that we learned already. So yeah, it is linked to that, because when you realize and when you try to have objective feedback on your delivery, and you try to gauge, like have a number, how many people find you interesting, keep track of feedbacks, positive versus negatives, and really try to get by the number, you realize that you have only 2 negative feedbacks and you have 12 positive feedback, but you just discounted those because it's kind of expected from you. You are expecting that from yourself, and you just focus on the 2 that didn't like you. If you really do the math, then you start start trying to understand and gauge your skills the same way you will gauge your business. You will do it with KPIs, you will do it with data. If you try to do that with the way you speak, and if you're engaging, and then you can monitor and you can improve on that. And then the imposter syndrome does not exist anymore, really.
Yeah, I love that idea of looking for the evidence to prove the real truth and not we see as the truth, because and I see it in myself. So often people will say, oh, that was amazing. You think, oh, they're just being nice, but when people say something not so positive, then you assume that they're actually telling the truth. And you think, well, what if all those people that said it was good were actually telling the truth? But it's hard sometimes to take that praise and at face value and accept that, yeah, I've done a good job. And why wouldn't you when you have prepared, you've maybe worked with a coach, you've got your structure, you've got your message, you've worked on your delivery, and why wouldn't you have done a good job? So yeah, I like that idea of finding the evidence and keeping score, so you can keep yourself like based on the facts of the situation. That and we had more than a year ago now, but Claire Yoser, who's an expert in imposter syndrome, came on the show, and she was saying that if you have these imposter-like feelings, it's a sign that you're not an imposter. So, if you feel that way, it's because you care. You want to perform at your best. You want to deliver something amazing for the audience. And it's not a sign that you can't do it. So just to remind yourself, it's a good thing. And maybe relabel them all together. As you said, it's not necessarily a great term to use at all.
I think that you're right. We are often victim in both sides of the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you start learning something and at first it seems easy and you make a lot of progression and you're like, oh, I'm mastering it, because you don't know what you don't know. And at some point you start realizing it, and then your expertise goes up, but your confidence goes down, because now you realize how little you do know. And at some point you get to that expertise level where you're fine of not knowing everything, but I'm okay about knowing stuff. And the trap is that we often give others too much credit. They are still at the first hump of the curve, and because we're ahead, we believe that they are ahead of us, and instead they are usually, or most of the time, they don't. They're just overly confident because they don't know what they don't know.
I'd never thought of it that way, because there's that quote, isn't it? Like, don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. But it's almost like you're saying, don't compare your chapter 20 to someone else's chapter 1, because they may have this false confidence. Because, as you say, it's through those bumps and grazes that we really learn what it takes for us personally to succeed and what success means for us. And I guess that's where our message comes from too, right? It's not going to come from everything's amazing. It's going to come from it was amazing. And then
there is one position in theater, and it's very important, that's touching to why you should seek a coach. And by coach, I'm not talking about a mentor, but someone whose job is to mirror, to give you back what you're actually delivering. So in public speaking and in theater, you need to have the director, not because they will direct you. They will not tell you, go there and raise your hand there. But they will tell you, as a naive audience, here is what I read. Is it exactly what you want me to read? Because usually we think that we're confident, or we think that we are playing and being enraged or being in love, but actually what is read is you're bored or you're hysteric, and you don't really want that. So aligning what you think you're delivering and what you actually is delivering is something that is very important. And that's, for me, the main the main purpose of a coach. And that's why even the greatest actors, they still have directors and acting directors to help them. It's not about learning the technique at this point. It's really about aligning what they feel from the inside and what it's actually showing from the outside.
Yeah, which I guess comes back to the imposter syndrome, that that comes when these two things aren't necessarily in alignment. So a coach could probably help you to, no, they're not being nice. You are actually doing a good job, and this is why. So they can help bring that evidence forward so that you can have that confidence. Which actually brings me to the question I was about to ask you. You almost read my mind there, was like, does everybody need a speaking coach? And is there a certain point in your journey as an entrepreneur or a leader where you think, okay, this is the point where I get a coach? Is there any easy rules, or is it a sense or a feeling?
There is an easy rule, which is more a mindset, in my opinion. I can do the analogy with any sport, but for instance, if you take tennis, at first you need to have a coach because you need to learn. You need to learn a slice. You need to learn to serve. You need to learn the technical gestures, and you need to learn the rules, how to behave and stuff like this. And at some point, you're proficient enough so you can just go and play and have fun and have maybe some results. But the fact that even Roger Federer still have a coach, still have someone to help him, it's not because the coach is better, because obviously he's one of the best in the world, so nobody is actually better. So it's not about skills, it's about having someone else to help you, to give you the pep talk when you need, to also give you the sad truth when you really need it as well. So having someone to help you grow. So to answer your question, it will not be really about, do you need a coach? It's more, are you satisfied with the level where you are and you just want to be there and develop other things? Or do you want to grow that particular skills? If you want to grow that skills, I would argue that having someone that can help you at least fine-tune what you want to do is very, very beneficial. Yesterday, I was coaching Martina Shiba, who has more than 16 years of television behind her. So she's very, very accustomed to that, very professional. And the thing is that she has all the good things, and she was really amazing to work with because it clicks, that you're talking professional to professional. It's like really a pleasure. But also, it's a different exercise doing a TEDx talk in front of a live audience than having something on a TV show. And so she was also flexible enough to accept that we work together to build some skills that she not lacked, but could have been done better at this point. And also, even especially when you're at this point, you have enough technique, so you don't want to think about what you're doing while you're doing it. You just want to think about delivering your message, right? And so at this point, you cannot have an eye on what you're doing and at the same time being 100% present in what you want to deliver. That's where, if you really want to get to the next level, you need to have someone else that can tell you what you do and pinpoint some of the specific points where here I can read this. Is it really what you want to do? When you're saying that, it sounds like a joke. Is it really a joke? If it's fine, if it is, perfect. If it's not, then you can fine tune. But at the time you do it, you cannot and you should not think about what you're doing because you cannot have this split attention.
Yeah. And I think that's the fun part, taking someone's message forward so it has an impact, but it's not so easy to do on your own. So I think having a coach or even just a friend who can help is always beneficial. It's a bit of a trick question.
Completely. That's one of the things that we do as coaches. One thing is having the knowledge, but the knowledge is not to tell you explicitly what to do. Because with the knowledge, I can see when I'm coaching people, I can see where the actual problem is, where the roadblock is. And it's not necessarily where you think it is. You think it's something, but it's actually something else. And the technique and the experience is there for me to just know, oh, you should work on that. And I know already that if you do this, it will also help on those problems as well. So this is where experience actually kicks in. But most of the time, it's more about emptying my own cup to see your talk and receive it as if it is the first time, every time. And that is why coaching for me is very important, because it's about giving you a feedback of, as someone who will hear it once and only once, here is what I take away from it. Is it exactly what you want? So that you can make sure that the message that I have is actually the message that you want to provide. I hear a lot of people saying that, yeah, but if I'm coached, if I work on my delivery, then it will feel theatrical or robotic and it will not be myself anymore. And I dare to disagree completely. That yes, if you do and redo things just for redoing things, it will be fixated and it will become robotic. But the goal of rehearsing and training and working is about diving deeper and deeper into the actual core of your idea so that it's shining even more. So removing everything that is hindering the message. And then it's even more authentic because what you will be building is coming from you. That's why, for me, it's a good coach or trainer should not tell you what to do. It should show you the door and help you go through it. But it's still you at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And as you were saying before, sometimes how you think you're projecting a message isn't how it's coming across either. So you may feel you're being authentic, but that, as you say, that's not necessarily what's being received from the other side. So it's bringing together this alignment, I guess. So there is so many different types of talk. We've got presentations, we've got workshops, we've got keynote talks, we've got TEDx talks. Do you need the same skills for all of them? Are they all pretty much different versions of the same thing, or are each of them quite distinct and different?
You need all the same skills. What is different is the aim, the purpose, and the codes. It's a different style. It's like different style of theaters or different style of dancing. Where for contemporary dancing and for Latino dancing, you still, for salsa and for classical, you still need the same set of skills. You still need the same number of legs and the same number of hands, but you will use them differently. And you will have figures that will be different because the codes are different. And yeah, there is a progression in a way that you start usually talking in meetings and in workshops, and you explain things for the purpose of being informative. And then you move to the boardroom where the main goal is to convince. So it's not just giving information, it's also giving a message, a suggestion. And then you move to the TED stage where it's more about inspiring and providing a vision. So it's kind of the scale and the strategic level of what you're talking about that is different. But the core skills are strictly the same. It's just that on the TED stage, you're expected not to have notes, to have very few slides, if any. It's even better if you don't have any. To have it very short, very engaging, with a lot of anecdotes, narratives, and stuff. And when you do it to the board of directors, you're more expected to have an articulated and data-backed up content that will deliver something and build an argument piece by piece. So the way you do it is a little bit different. And to be honest, the level of effort that you put into it is also should reflect how much importance there is to the talk that you will give. If you give a status report to your team, you might not want to spend 2 hours crafting the exact speech that you will be doing. But if you give a 12-minute TED talk on the global stage, then it's totally okay and suggested that you spend 20 hours building up your 12-minute speech, just because it's the once in a lifetime thing.
Exactly. It's interesting to understand how important is the outcome of each talk, and being clear about what that is, you can kind of reverse engineer what you're going to put into your talk.
It's a good example, actually, in the business, especially in the startup world, because as a founder, your main task was before to build the business. But now that the business do exist, your main task is to explain the business and to sell the business. So you talk to VCs, you talk to sponsors, you talk to clients, to a big corporate client of yours that you really want to get. And for that, you need to have a talk that is well crafted, that you know in and out, and so well that you can also move things and move parts around. So it's not something that is fixed and that is always the same, but you need to get that because you do it all the time. And I see a lot of founders that just didn't put enough effort in crafting their pitch. I'm like, but that is your main job. You have this 15, 20-minute pitch that you know will be always the same, that because it's presenting you and your business. So this one, it's a good investment to invest a lot of time to have this one perfect, and then you can build on top of that. So this is kind of the middle. Think of your pitch as a TEDx talk that you will not give on a TEDx stage, but you will give on the Y Combinator stage or another VC or any fund that you will pitch to. And that is crucial, in my opinion, because that's your job is to explain what your business is.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think it comes back to this lack of education that people have never been taught what it takes to communicate well. And so they drastically underestimate how much effort is required to put across a short, succinct, powerful talk or pitch that's going to have the impact that you want and the outcome and the investment that you want as well. It's a shame, but hopefully we're re-educating people a bit more today.
Yeah, definitely.
So we talked about TEDx there a little bit, and I know a lot of founders are itching to get on the TEDx stage. What does it take to get to the TEDx stage? Or what do they need to keep in mind that makes a great TEDx talk to know if they even have an idea that's worth spreading?
You touched it. That's exactly that. What we require to be on the TEDx stage, we require one thing and we forbid another. We require that you have an idea that is so interesting, so singular, that it is worth spreading. So it's even more interesting than just being worth telling. So interesting that people after the show will continue talking about it. So this is the kind of idea that we want. And a lot of people do have that kind of idea. What we forbid is to sell your business. And I have a lot of also inquiries from CEOs and founders who basically want to have a platform to sell their business. And it's not that. It's a platform to share the reason why you have a business in the first place, why you do what you do, what kind of impact do you want to have in the world. And then there's no more requirement than this. But of course, it requires to have a lot of work to be done to have that, to craft that talk. And it's not really about having a quality, because truth to be told, all TEDx events are not the same in their requirement. Some are much easier to get into than others. So you probably can find a TEDx in the 3,000 literally that have every year that will get you in. But that will be your TEDx talk. And it's more about you. What do you want to have as your signature TEDx talk? In my opinion, you don't do a TEDx because we want to be on the TEDx stage. We do a TEDx because we have something that we are burning, aching to share with the world. And that happened usually to be the fuel that fuel our business as well.
I love that. Look at the reason behind what you do, that cause, that why, as Simon Sinek would say, and that's where your idea lies. David, you have shared so much value. I've really enjoyed this discussion. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you feel the audience should know if they want to approach getting confident speaking in any situation, and having a message that really has an impact, and not just for the audience, but for themselves as well.
Yeah, actually there is, because I think that one thing that is mostly overseen when we're talking about speaking in public, we're talking about the techniques, like the gestures, the voice, and stuff like this, where everybody thinks about the content. Obviously, you need to have something that is a message. But in my experience, being comfortable on stage is about having something that you really want to share and having the techniques to make sure that you can rely on that to be clear and to be impactful. But most importantly is to give you the freedom of just being there and just breathing there. We know that already. Look at a child, they will have no problem going on stage and doing something silly. We, as Serkins or Ken Robinson would say, we grew out of it. And we have to find back that freedom, which is not confidence. You don't need to be confident. You just need to be free, to just have the courage of saying, okay, whatever, I have my message to say. It's more important than me being ridiculous. So I will go there. And because you experiment that and you experience that, you still not die, you still survive, and people will love it. Then bricks by brick, you start building that confidence. It starts with just giving yourself the right to just be there and start talking. One very good entry point for that, if you have children, use the bedtime stories. Use it as a place to be more theatrical, to go 10 times too much and see how your child is reacting. They will probably love it. So if the child love it, then the inner child of your CEO will love it.
Brilliant. And there's one book that is brilliant for that, called The Book with No Pictures. It's very funny. Kids love it, but you have to push out your comfort zone and try silly voices and all sorts of things, because otherwise the book doesn't work. So it's a good one to start with.
And that's an exercise that we can all do if you happen to have a child there, or if you don't, try with a loved one or anything. Just try to do something that you think is silly, like to try to tell a story with a silly voice and doing large gestures and stuff. Then at the end, you ask, on a scale of 1 to 10, how silly was it? And see which number comes out. It's probably much lower than you think.
Yeah, I love that. Build your daring as you go.
Objectify, build your silliness KPI to see where you are and give yourself a target.
Yeah, that's so fun. Damien, if anyone has resonated with what you've talked about today, I believe you've got a tool that they can download to help them with their impactful speaking. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that tool, that download, and what's inside?
Yeah, that exactly. It's a workbook that I first printed, and I still print it and I give it away whenever I do a training. So it's a workbook like that. It's like it's a short one. It's 20 pages long, and you have a lot of different things we touch about warming up. The one thing that you should learn if you want to immediately go to the next stage, just warm up before going on stage and speak. Nobody does that, but Roger Federer, again, will warm up before going in on the match. So why wouldn't you?
Yeah, true.
And you have that, you have the story structures. It's a condensed version of the basis of what I'm teaching when I'm doing trainings. And I decided to offer it for free on my website on impactfulspeaking.com. And you can register to download the PDF version. I try to give as much value as I can in this and in the blog that I have, also the weekly blog that I have, to give tricks and tips that goes beyond just the surface, but something that is more deep, that you can use in real life and in any situation. Everything is on my website, impactfulspeaking.com.
Brilliant. Great. Well, we'll put the link to that underneath the video as well, so people can, or underneath the audio, so people can go straight through to that. You just flick through it there. Anyone who's listening to the audio wouldn't have seen it, but so complete. There's everything you need with none of the fluff. You can just dive straight in and start building those skills. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome. Trying to get every idea to be heard and to shine.
I love that mission. So if people want to get in contact with you, is that the best place for them to go to, your website?
Website or LinkedIn. Very easy to find me on LinkedIn. Damien Gautier or Damien Pierre Gautier, if you want the full name. And I'm there. And that's probably the easiest way to find me.
Fantastic. Damien, thank you so much.
Thank you, Melitta. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed this week's show and are all set to go and let your message shine. Come and join the discussion in the Dream Clients Club on School, that's School with K, and let me know what your biggest takeaways have been. And if you've enjoyed the show, then be sure to leave a review on iTunes and share this episode with your network and business besties. There are a lot more tools, tips, and insights coming up for you in the next episode, so don't miss next week's show. Better still, subscribe now so you never miss your weekly dose of inspiration. And don't forget to visit melittacampbell.com/training to access your free training with me to help you start attracting more of your dream clients. I'm Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode.